right. Well, we're Lara, Tam, and Fiona. We're three UX writing enthusiasts from Switzerland. We've been organizing this meetup for long, I don't even know anymore, 1.5, 2 years now. And as of Corona, as you heard before, it's gone international, and it's gone, it's gone pretty big, which is really cool. So happy to have you all here. Quick agenda for today. So as always, those of you who have been here before will have a 30-minute plus minus for a 30-minute talk by Natasha and by Marta. Afterwards, we'll have a Q&A session. So keep all of your questions in mind and post them in the chat. So if you have any questions at all, please post them, even if they're technical, post them in the chat. Lara, Tam, and I will be monitoring the chat, and we'll be collecting all the questions for the Q&A session at the very end. There you go. What else? Just a quick shout out. We're always looking for speakers and sponsors. So if you feel like you have anything to say in the world of UX and UX writing, UX research, UX design, but especially with focus on content, of course, please feel free to reach out to us. We also have one sponsor, which is Still Nothing AG. They're based in Bern. They're a product design company. Thank you so much for always being part of our journey. Quick note on the Lookout side. So we're having another meetup in July. The date is not yet fixed, but the topic is fixed and the speaker is fixed. So the topic in July will be on dark patterns, and the speaker is Piotr Slusarski. I hope I'm saying that right. If not, I'm sorry. But he'll be the speaker. He'll be talking about dark patterns in UX writing, so we're very excited about that topic. We'll let you know about the exact date when July creeps up on us. So today we have two special speakers from, well, they're both based in Germany, in Berlin at the moment. It's Natasha and Marta. They both work for Flixbus, which is I mean, you'll introduce the company yourself. I don't need to say anything about that. But so Natasha is the UX writer / researcher at Flixbus, and Marta is the product designer, the UX designer. And they're kind of collaborating on a daily basis, across a team. They have a cross-team collaboration going on. And in their talk, they'll be, showing us what kind of tools they're using, like how they manage this, also in times of home office and in times of, being stuck at home. And they also be touching on the subject of, how to test your writing, UX writing. So we're very much looking forward to your talk. I think, quick introduction. So Natasha and Marta, they are a multilingual duo. Like they, in total, I think they speak like 700 languages put together, including Russian, Spanish, French, German, English, of course. They'll be holding the talk in English, so we're all good, I hope. So Natasha is a UX writer. She has a PhD in Russian literature. So and she was a journalist before this, if I'm not mistaken. She is also a mentor for the UX writing hub. So she has, I'm sure she knows a lot about the world of UX writing. And Marta, she was working on the Android app for Flixbus at the moment. She has a background in product design as well as communications. So she also has various experiences to pull from for this talk. And I think without further ado, I'll be handing over to you guys, Natasha and Marta. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for the really cool introduction. And thank you for having us both. I know it's not a very common format, but I hope we'll make the most out of it because we really want this to be a collaborative session. So we will give you insight on how we work, but we're very much looking forward into discussing how you work, what life hacks may you have, and if there's anything that we can learn from you, that would be amazing. So I would really consider what we're going to present as a conversation starter, but I would really like to have a discussion around what we do, what we could do better, what you do, and how may we help you maybe. So yeah, before I also pass it on to Marta to introduce herself, maybe I will share my screen just for a second, start sharing my screen to give you a sense of agenda that we want to do today. So just a sec. This one. Yeah, okay. Do you guys see what I'm presenting?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. 2 screens is complicated, okay. And now? Yeah, cool. Ah, okay. Well, that was a cool UX writing. I didn't see the button. And now you see, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we see it.
Cool, perfect, thank you. Yeah, so before I also give the stage to Marta, just a quick agenda so that we don't get lost. So first of all, hi there. We're gonna introduce ourselves, of course, after such a cool introduction. Maybe we have something to add. I don't know how much. So then we're gonna talk about how it started with pair writing, how we actually decided to do this, how it's going now, and how it's going now in the remote setting, and what actually has content research to do with pair writing. Some learnings at the end. We kind of wanted to give the most important learnings. We have a lot of them, but we tried to concentrate ourselves on a couple. And yeah, that would be our rough agenda for today. Again, like a conversation starter. And yeah, so I would be very quick before I give it up to Marta. As already was mentioned, I come from like an academic background, so this is how my table looked like 8 years ago when I was finishing up my PhD. Yeah, I have around 10 years of academic research behind me, and it was an interesting change. And what I learned helps me every day in some way. But in other way, for me, working with a product team on UX writing and UX research was a completely new area, and there was a lot I had to learn, but I actually don't regret switching to UX writing even for a second. And I give it up to Marta.
Thank you, Natasha. I put Mad Men because it exemplifies a little bit what I studied, advertising. And I was not drinking whiskey all the time at work or anything like that, but we were really like coming up with concepts, designing, and also copywriting, which is how I found the correlation with UX writing and how I started working with Natasha and being very interested about UX writing, because I saw that there were common patterns. And I think it's pretty cool to have all these little points in common that can also help making a product perfect or almost perfect. So yeah.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so also a bit of a background where we come from together with Marta. So I hope you're seeing what is said here, but like my Zoom, okay, my Zoom is not optimal for that, but okay. Yeah, where we are coming from together with Marta. We work for Flixbus. So officially we work for Flix Mobility, but we are most known as Flixbus. So we work in the tech department of Flixbus. And the vision of Flixbus is smart and green mobility for everyone to experience the world. So we are eco-friendly travel. So we don't have only Flixbus right now in more than, I don't know how many countries, but across Europe and also in the UK, in the US. We also have on the European market, we are also breaking into Flix train, so breaking into train travel. So the amount of product we work on, me and Marta as well, is huge. So it's even 2 different types of vehicles. But the vision, I think, everyone in the company shares this vision about being smart in terms of not smart or silly, but in terms of being really innovative in our product decisions, and green, eco-friendly mobility that we really want everyone to experience the world. This is the best thing about Flixbus, is that we try to bring the world to you. Yeah, so as I mentioned, you can imagine we have more than one product. We also have also have offices in more than one country, so not only in Germany and not only on one continent. Being remote was part of our life even before Corona. But 6 months before 2020, before the year started, we were mostly working, at least me and Marta were working, I would say maybe 70% in the office, and 30% we were also checking in with colleagues across the world. But I wouldn't say we were really remote at that point. And how did we live back then? I will let Marta explain a bit more.
Yeah, so a little bit the structure right now, and even we try to do as much as possible similar in remote. So we have a UX research team, which is centralized, and they support the whole company with research requests. So sometimes it's quite complicated to find ways, but they're giving us tools to be autonomous. So that's pretty cool. Then we have a team which is only focusing on design system, which is quite kind of innovative, and it's pretty cool that it's so centralized there, because they can really have quality assurance on the design system, that it's mainly for websites. So I have my own design systems on the app. And then we have UX designers for at least all the customer facing products. Then for internal products, we're getting there. So they are opening more and more positions to have UX designers, because they're seeing the value that we're bringing to the products. And then we have Natasha as the UX writer, trying to balance her time with all of these different products and requests. And then here we can explain a little bit the UX maturity framework that we are trying to follow in order to be very user-centric or fully user-centric in the company. So there's these five steps where we want to achieve that the UX mentality is overall the part of the business strategy, product, everywhere. So we are talking in UX terms everywhere. So if you want to go to the next slide. Yep. Here, right now, Flixbus, we feel that we are in between these 2 steps. So usability testing is pretty much covered, as I was saying, in the customer facing products, because we have the UX designers that are advocating for that. And we are fighting, and we have tools, and we are trying to demonstrate all the time the value that this brings. And right now there's also an initiative to assign metrics to all the products and features we're working on, so we can really measure the impact of UX, which is kind of challenging because there's not so much around there that tells you how to really do that. So giving quantitative aspects to everything we do, it's complicated, but we're working for it, and it's pretty exciting to get there and see the whole process. So that's becoming very, very cool.
Yes, and also I might go a slide back. So we also, as a community, we always get together and think, of course, in everything we do, how can we go to the next stage, which is maturing UX informs product strategy. And here, our goal is the community to, of course, get mature and mature. So we really want to inform product strategy. If we are completely honest in assessing ourselves using this UX maturity framework, we don't think we're at the stage 4 right now. As Marta mentioned, we are definitely at stage 3. Maybe at some aspects we're still between 2 and 3. But when we were talking about UX writing and how can we include it in our daily processes in the UX community, one of the reasons to try it out, at least, and this is what was happening like a bit, well, right now more than a year ago, so before Corona, was that UX writing can help us be a step better, so be a bit more mature that we are now. And it is one of the things we are working on getting UX mature, but it's of course not the only one. So this is basically how we decided to give UX writing a try as a community and as also as a team of UX researchers as well. But basically it also happened because in our daily conversations in the UX community, and also with Marta, for example, I was always really seeing bad UX writing everywhere. So not only in our products, I was also bringing examples from other products that we use. And yeah, for example, LinkedIn till now doesn't allow me to really tell everyone when is my real birthday, because LinkedIn doesn't allow the 31st of July to be in their product. I feel very hard topic, not being able to state my real birthday. So, or for example, we also a few of my colleagues and me, we also tried one product where you can play the musical instrument yourself remotely, also like a #Corona hobby. And I remember getting this screen and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm closing this. Because if you read this, like, are you using an external microphone or a headset? And you only have the opportunity to answer yes or no. I was really, it was the end of the work week and I was like, yeah, okay, sorry. So we, in all the conversations with between ourselves and the company, and we also tried to attend a lot of UX events also together before Corona, we were seeing more and more opportunity to do more UX writing. And then at some point, I remember I said, okay, let's try. But yeah, what we had, like, what was given to us was that, let's say I will be the UX writer, like a straw poll, I will be the UX writer for more than 10 product teams. And we're talking not only about customer facing, because we believe that we are, even if we're talking about internal products, we still have users, and it doesn't matter that they're not our customers. We're also the customers of our own internal products. So we had one UX writer for more than 10 product teams. We didn't have any quality check in the teams after the copy is created. So we have a great localization team and content management team, and they're really cool people, really love their job, but they also cannot be this quality check. And that was already pretty clear. And we also found out that we don't have any guidelines for teams on how to create copy on their own. So if we say, of course, one UX writer cannot cover every piece of copy being produced in the whole company, but at least we're going to give them some guidelines. And this is what we also realized is missing in the process. So what our solution was, and what Marta so beautifully decided to help me out and to really go for this solution and try this out. So the solution was that we sit down together and we write the copy. If we cannot write it by ourselves, me and UX designer, we will invite subject matter expert to help us to explain what job the copy is supposed to do. So we of course understand we are not the engineers, we're not people who know everything about this product, especially we have so many of them. So we of course need the help. And there were cases when we were just pulling people in the call, or before Corona, just asking them to come by. To let us understand what the job we're actually supposed to be solving with this copy. And the side thing that we wanted to solve is to empower stakeholders to create UX content on their own. So we're going to talk about this. Marta is going to talk about how we document what we are doing, and how this hopefully helps to make sure stakeholders create quality UX content. But we are of course always there for them to to help them understand if they're what are they doing and how can we help them. And also we didn't come up with pair writing from absolutely nowhere. So we had an initiative quite a while ago by UX research team that was called UX Croissant, and that was kind of speed dating style user lab where you would have 15 minutes per topic with people just like parallel sessions, and designers would test their ideas on new employees. They would be like participants in this case. And sometimes even POs, product owners, came to these sessions. So basically the idea is the same. We spent a bit more than 15 minutes on a copy sometimes, but the idea to come by, test, get your feedback, and iterate. It was also a bit inspired by what UX research team has already been trying to do. And yeah, then a beautiful thing happened, March 2020. The last time we were in the office for more than one day. I still haven't been to office in more than months. So yeah, March 2020 happened. And what we needed pair writing to stay, we needed pair writing to go remote as everything that we had to do. But what we needed this pair writing, which we're just starting to try out. We didn't even had a scheduled meetings like we do now, for example, with Marta. We really needed a pair writing to stay efficient. So we would really solve the copy problems that we have to produce a copy in the end. We wanted it to stay collaborative. We didn't want to come to this situation when I would just write something, pin Marta in Figma, and she would give her comments. We really wanted to have this collaboration between ourselves that keeps going. And we also needed pair writing to stay educational. It shouldn't have gone somewhere in the back of everyone's minds and be lost a bit forever. So this is what we how we started Corona, how we started remote pair writing with our ideas, how we wanted it to go. So what we're going to talk about is what we do now in our remote setup before the session. So before our call with Marta, we have it twice a week. But we always keep up with each other in chat as well. Sometimes if we need more time, we will schedule another call. So we're going to focus on what we do before those calls, what we do during these calls, and what we do after those calls. right? So, and just a sec, yeah. So what we do before is also something that I, as a UX researcher, always try to evangelize. We define the problem, but we are not jumping to solution. So, and for that to be really clear for every stakeholder, no matter if it's from UX community or not from UX community, for this to be clear, we introduced a service desk. So an online form where people can ask for UX writing help with two categories: for new products or features, or quality check for existing copy. And why we have two different categories is that we really need to estimate better the amount of effort we're going to need to put in this copy. If it's a new product or feature, there should be some UX research happening before that. There should be analytics gathering and everything, so we cannot just let the copy be by itself. And it also helps to educate on content and user research from start. Sorry, my mouse keeps jumping. Yeah, so this is the things we try to do before, so we really understand how much time we're going to spend on each copy. And Marta will tell us what we did during.
Yeah, so basically, right before Corona started, I think the company decided to switch to Figma because all different designers, some of them were using Sketch, some of them were using XD. So it was pretty much a mess. And at some point, let's say, okay, let's start from scratch, transition to Figma, and yeah, and we started doing that. And then we were actually prepared for Corona without even knowing. So having Figma available was amazing to write at the same time. So we could be on a session. We didn't even need to share the screen because in Figma you have the functionality to follow each other. So we would be working on the same topic at the same time, brainstorming together, coming up with some ideas. Maybe I would bring a draft to Natasha and be like, I don't know, I'm stuck here. How can we improve this text? So it was amazing to have Figma for that. And I think also Figma, since you don't need to store locally anything, you can always have it on the cloud. So you can always keep track of the latest iteration we did. We can invite and share it to anybody. Yeah, as I was saying, we can work at the same time. And then if there were some engineers in my team that could explain a little bit better the feature, because sometimes there are some technicalities that you need to consider, we could just pull them in. They also had access. They could also collaborate with us. So it was pretty much easy to do with such a tool. And I really recommend that. And then after, so we see that there's a challenge with signing off the projects, because let's say that I speak on my end with my team in Android, and then Natasha also speaks with someone else in another team, and we come up with different changes and so on. Being synchronous and always keeping track of latest versions and knowing what's the latest copy, it's hard. And also, let's say this copy goes in someone else's hands, like the developers request translations have another comment to it, so it becomes this little snowball that in the end it becomes huge, and you're like, what is this content coming from? So it's hard to keep track, but we're really eager to do that. And we also want to document everything, so sometimes we even talk about having sort of a design system for content. So there are some things we could explore and that we want to learn as well. I don't know, Natasha, if you wanted to add something here.
Yeah, the only thing that I would like to add is that I really love that, for example, Marta is a UX designer. She has her own ceremonies in the team. And as a UX writer, I don't really go very deep in them, because I also cannot follow every team and the ceremonies. But I must say I was always welcome, and I am always welcome in their team, like reviews and yeah, basically reviews when the team presents what they have done in the last sprint, because we're working in the agile way. So it happens regularly that they have a sprint review, and I think it is not every team, and I understand how not every team can be like this. But in the case of the team where Marta works, I really never felt unwelcome. They were always very open to my feedback, and I could just come into any meeting and say something. And I think it's also a big part of how to promote UX writing. Well, you're gonna be that person who invites him or herself in every meeting and ask strange questions. Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite okay. And I was always afraid, not always, but at first I was really afraid that what will the team think if someone comes and they don't even know her and she's like asking questions about a comma or something. But I think everyone is pretty okay with this. And I really like just crushing the meetings and asking people uncomfortable questions. But if pair writing happened not with a UX designer, and it happened with the stakeholders that are not even in the UX world, they could be product owners. I think it's very important for UX writer to get a governance of what they are presenting. So really explain how, with whom, and how, and why did you rewrite this copy or wrote this copy from the beginning, and explain your rationale. So also how maybe you're proposed to test it, or how you already tested it somehow. So if you have a UX designer as your pair writer, it's really cool, and they help you really have this clear sign-off process. But sometimes you need to take to the responsibility of presenting and signing off on the copy and making sure that everyone is aligned and they understood why you did it and the copy doesn't get lost. I think this is also one of the biggest challenges. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and because I'm also a UX researcher, I got some pieces of feedback where people were saying, but pair writing has nothing to do with content research, and maybe it's not as good as content research, and there is no content research. Well, actually, in my opinion, pair writing is content research, and it's quite easy to include content research, and you don't need to spend a lot of time on this. But there's always an opportunity to introduce this. So I'm going to focus on something that I would quickly go through something that we do with Marta almost all the time during. So if you guys want to talk about, if you want to talk about what I do as a UX researcher also before, we can concentrate on this in Q&A, but I really wanted to cover what we actually do with Marta during the pair writing session. And what we do, we have readability and accessibility check for everything that we write. And readability check, sometimes we basically use Hemingway app, which is the most incredible tool. I can recommend it to everyone. I even check my emails with it. It gives you a very quick feedback on how readable is your copy. And because we at FlixBus, our users are not, by far not native English speakers. And everyone uses our products. People plus 50 and also students, we need our language to be very universal and really accessible and easily understandable for everyone. So that's why we always do a readability check. We also try to do accessibility check. Not only, I mean, of course, UX designers do accessibility check for their designs, but what I mean is really that our writing is web accessible, and we try to take it seriously. And I think it's one of the most important things you can do during the pair writing session to make sure you're writing accessibly. And you check your readability grade. And what we do after, if you guys, if everyone in this call, if you have UX researchers, then I would really suggest you align with them as much as possible, because they can give you a lot of insight on what actually you could test and track in terms of metrics, but they also can suggest quick and easy research methods you can do on your copy, or not quick and not easy, but they will help you out. Yeah, there is also such a notion as content research process, which absolutely the same as your user research process, where you first gather hypothesis assumptions and then you come up with the goals for a test and you test your copy. The only difference between content research process and user research process is what actually you are testing. So in content research, you would be testing pieces of copy or content. So I would suggest that as much as possible, you would not let copy go into the world by itself, but do at least some kind of testing. And in this sense, you either get help from your UX researchers, and if you don't have a UX researcher, this is also not a problem. If you want, in the Q&A session, I can also delve into what are the tests that I actually suggest a lot of my stakeholders to do on the content, even if they are not from UX, even if they are not from UX world, say it like this. So yeah, so how did our experiment go? how is it still going? So we have a bit of learnings for you, a couple of learnings. We can also go into more detail in Q&A, but that would be our top 3. And the first one, Marta.
Yes, so basically we need to document everything. Everything we find out, all the content that we decide to go for needs to be documented, because otherwise you get lost with many trials and so many people giving input. So you really need to keep track and be very methodical with that. And also Figma enables you to keep track on that. You can name the pages on Figma with the latest dates, or you can have a page called latest and always make sure that your content is there on the latest version, because otherwise you will see your content running around and you're going to be like, but that's not what I wrote. And then you have proof that you're not going crazy. So that's very important. I would say always keep track of everything.
Yeah. And then we also use Confluence to keep track of our UX research done on everything. So that would be kind of my part of learning. Even the smallest thing I did on the copy, the smallest test Marta ran on the copy, for example, Think Aloud. They're quick, but they have a lot of insights in them. And if they go undocumented, that is really one very valuable piece of knowledge lost. Yeah. And in the spirit of the 4th of May, we all have much to learn. We still have much to learn, and my learning here was always, let's just do it together, do it maybe quick and dirty, iterate on this a lot, but never come to a pair writing session with the expectation that now in the next 40 minutes we're going to write War and Peace. That won't happen, and it also didn't happen to Leo Tolstoy in 40 minutes. Russian literature background, so this is the only metaphor I can come up with. So really, don't set unrealistic expectations. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of iterations. Everyone's going to have an opinion on the copy that you wrote. But this is the best part of pair writing. This is collaboration in the really cool form. And in the end, as long as there is clear governance on the copy, something amazing is going to come out. And as many people as it's not bad to have as many people as possible chip in, but in the end, you know, if you're the governor of your copy and it's your responsibility, but that doesn't mean that you have to set really high expectations of the copy that is going to go out of this pair writing session. And the last one that we're gonna focus on is I just want to, because I have to screen sometimes things, yeah, cool, things work out. And the last learning that I also want to pay attention to is we also, me and Marta, I think we both heard at some point that, you know, you write the copy till we get some more writers, whatever this means. We really think, and I think this is why we actually see really good results from our pair writing process. And we try to make more people make use of our time, or my time as UX writer, that this pair writing process is not an interim solution until, like, you know, the real copywriter is going to take this or something like this. It is incredibly important for promoting UX mentality in your company. So first of all, you're going to be coming, I mean, I think many UX writers on this call have already experienced it. At some point you come into the call and you say UX writer and no one understands what you do. But with time, when you start explaining, and especially if people try out this pair writing process with you, if a product owner is your stakeholder from a completely different product, the one you never worked before, he comes to you, he writes you on chat and says, you know, I know you're a UX writer, so can you please help me write this? And maybe it's not even UX writer in the end, but you start working with him, you do this pair writing session, one or several pair writing sessions, and you actually start seeing how people get to understand this UX mentality more. And this is what we want for UX maturity at our company. And I'm pretty sure it's not only our wish. This is how we go forward. This is how we make people aware of us as the UX community, and this is how we mature with time. So that would be our our last piece of knowledge. And yeah, I don't want to speak for Marta, but I'm incredibly interested. If you ever tried pair writing, how did it go? And most importantly, how can we help you in anything? And yeah, Marta, I like, you have an incredible experience of being a UX designer with a marketing background, so seeing a lot of sides of product. And also, I think there is a lot that you could help with Figma, which, I mean, Marta also taught me how to use Figma. So yeah, we really want to have a talk Q&A with you, everyone in the call, on how did it go and how can we help you with pair writing. So thank you for listening, and we're ready for your questions.
All right, well, I think on behalf of everybody, virtual clap. I think everybody's clapping, but you probably can't see it here. So thank you so much for taking the time. We do have a few questions. So before maybe we start talking about, like getting into a discussion, maybe we can start with the questions that were written in the chat. Okay, so first of all, I think this is one of the questions that came up a few times. You, Natasha, you're the UX writer at Flixbus, and like, who do you report to? Like, what team are you on? And also, like, with how many product teams do you do the pair writing? Right? Does it work with all the products, or like, how do you do it with all the other products if you only work with one?
Yeah, so this is something that I inherited from me being a UX writer in centralized UX research, me as being a UX researcher in centralized UX research team. So how we work on a project base. We work project based. So this is where I really make a big use of this writing desk. So what help desk or service desk, how we call it, not writing desk, of course. So what I do basically, like, I will explain it really granularly. I have a status in Teams. This is our tool, internal tool for communication. I have a status in Teams that if you have a UX writing request, this is a link to service desk. They come to service desk, they have two opportunities: to have a quick quality check, or they need to write a new piece of copy. I get this service request automatically in my Teams, and then I set up a meeting that could be like 15 minutes, 30, 1 hour meeting with a person who gave me this request, and it can be anyone in the company. And we discuss what is actually to be done, what is their expectations in terms of when do they need it. And then I say, okay, guys, this is my roadmap for this quarter. This is my plans for the next sprint. I can take your request. If it's a quality check, maybe I can take it even in a week. If it's a bigger project, I say, okay, we plan it for this sprint that will come in 2 weeks or in 3 weeks. If they don't agree, we try to, of course, find some way to, if they really have something they need to do like yesterday, we try to find some middle ground. But the most important, I just explain my process, that I work in sprints, and as everyone else, there's a service desk you can use. Let's meet up, discuss your expectations, assumptions, what still needs to be done. If I need to see analytics and they don't have analytics set up for this thing they want to write with me or rewrite, then they need to set up analytics, and I need to wait for the results of analytics. So this is how you also explain your work and educate on how the UX process actually looks like. Yeah.
So how long do you like stay with one product, or like how long does it depend? Because like I'm coming from an agency background, right? And like I remember jumping from project to project as a UX writer, and I mean the UX designers on the project, they usually had a lot more knowledge about the domain than I did, because I just jumped in, right? So how do you handle like the balance between belonging to a team, knowing enough about a project, but also being the only UX writer and jumping from from project to project?
Yeah, I mean, also, I don't believe that having one UX writer in the company is the best process. We're working on making it better. But I jump from product to product a lot. Mostly my projects take 1 or 2 sprints, so that would be 2 or 4 weeks. If there is a lot of research to be done, the project can last longer. This is also the way you handle your roadmap for the next quarter. If you know that this was going to be a big project, then you plan a lot of time for it. But yeah, there is a lot of context switching, but for that, I always have my subject matter experts. So I don't shy out and I say, guys, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I need to talk with this guy, person, and they need to help me. They need to be with me when I write. If they cannot make the time, then I cannot write. So it's also about setting expectations. Yeah, but it's hugely collaborative, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. I'll jump to the next question here. So this is from Amelia. How does pair writing go when there are like a lot, many stakeholders involved? Do they participate all the time, or just the two of you pair up first and then ask the stakeholders to participate, or how do you structure?
Maybe Marta, you can also help me out with this, because from my side, I'm UX writer, so I just I try to make the best as a UX writer, but actually Marta has to deal with much more stakeholders in that case. There's many more.
Yeah, so basically normally we have these sessions, and I will speak with my PO after, or for normally we have refinement sessions where I present my designs to the developers and they give me feedback. So they are the first ones who are gonna be like, yes, no, let's change this is not accurate, this call to action is not gonna work. Then I can check it again with Natasha. And then we have a product demo every end of the sprint. And then the stakeholders are invited there. So if we have app marketing people, product owners from other teams that also have a say there, they always participate, and we get some comments there normally that we're gonna review. There's always something coming up, and it's pretty cool because we already established like this kind of conversation demos, and it's not so much about, hey, this is what's going to release and that's it. There's nothing gonna happen after. Our teammates are always like, okay, let's just like change this copy, it's not that difficult. So it's pretty agile, I would say. And also it helps a lot that the product owner we have, he's very advocating for UX. So if you have a strong product owner that says, okay, UX research is the place to go, for sure this person is going to be open to UX writing. And Natasha is always the expert to ask for. It's even like the developers in the team are like, let's ask Natasha in case of doubt. So yeah, when they see the benefit of it, everybody participates, and demos are always a good place to involve everybody.
Yeah,
oh, sorry, go ahead, Natasha.
Yeah, just a small comment. In Marta's team, there are also, I think, at least one native English speaker. So we also try to use him sometimes. That is also a cool way to use the developer in the pair writing session.
True. So just regarding the stakeholders, I think this question from Alex kind of feeds into this. So Alex is asking less about pair writing specifically, but more a general question about UX writing. How do you balance the needs of the business and the needs of the user? For example, companies often use a lot of marketing speak to upsell users or encourage them to select a more expensive option. How do you incorporate UX writing into this? How do you handle it?
Marta? No, I mean, I can give first my answer. Yeah, so we have, of course, marketing as a special department, and me and Marta, we are both in tech side, and marketing is in business side. So I think in this case, we're pretty lucky that most of the communication, at least between me and marketing, goes through product owners. So it's actually a product owner decision to take this request for marketing for writing something new in their product. So they would be, then we will talk with, then they will present this decision to actually do something of marketing in their product to me, and we will talk about that. And what I end up writing most of the time actually comes from marketing, and then I try to make it user-centric, or also not me alone, but it's a collaborative effort. And then we get a marketing feedback, and I explain my my reasoning behind rewriting some of their stuff. But I think, well, we are pretty lucky to have a marketing department which is also not oblivious to UX. So most of the time we really find a middle ground between user-centric and marketing copy. But it's a lot of aligning and collaboration. I mean, it's not just a sign off from their side, sign off from my side. We really come together and talk about what I wrote, what they wrote. Yeah.
Yeah, we like, since we have a roadmap planning every quarter where everybody participates, it's very rare that marketing is gonna come up with something that's gonna break the product so bad that it's gonna be like, oh, this is like too much. So normally the PO is gonna tell marketing that if they don't have a research that really supports their hypothesis on this new feature that they want to do, we're not gonna do that. Except that the business case is so big that it's hard to fight against it. But right now we are always having this shield of, we're not gonna take this feature if it's not gonna bring any benefit to the user, because it's development time that goes to waste, design time that goes to waste. So it doesn't happen so often. I remember we had a feature that it was bad, like in-app messaging, and I asked to connect with the marketing team and the person in charge of that, so we could work together and make it less bad and more user friendly. So you can always reach out to everybody in the company, so that's pretty cool.
So in general, it sounds like you got lucky with your PO.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
So we have a couple of questions regarding, the UX research that you do at Flixbus. So first of all, Anya is asking, is it mostly like quantitative research that you do, but also qualitative? Like, yeah.
The team that I belong to, the centralized UX research team, we're qualitative UX researchers. We have a separate team that is a quantitative UX research. But of course, when we work, we incorporate both. So we follow this idea of triangulation, that quantitative follows qualitative and nothing should come only one side, no, only qualitative or only quantitative. In that sense, we have a great culture of experimentation. So we strive to make every test, everything tested from both sides, qualitative and quantitative. They could follow different timelines, of course, and we're pretty agile in that. But my team is qualitative. But as a UX writer, I, of course, make sure that I take both sides into consideration.
Yeah, also from the product perspective, we always try to keep track of everything we do. So every time we put a new screen or a new feature, it's like, let's add tracking here, 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 so we can compare how it was performing before. Even if we don't create a A/B test per se, like properly, we always keep track of everything and all the parts of the funnel. So if you have a strong sense of quantitative research in the team, it also helps a lot.
Do you have a specific tool that you use for content testing?
For content testing, no. We use the remote research tool that we have in our company. I make use of I make use of what quantitative team has in terms of surveys that are on live pages. But I mean, before Corona, we could just go out and ask people. I mean, we have a Flixbus station just near our stop. When we went remote, we tried to use every opportunity we have. It would be live web surveys, the remote research tool that we have. Yeah, we don't use one specific tool for that. There are a variety of them.
We also got a couple of questions regarding localization. Like, how does it play a role in your daily work, or how do you handle it?
Marta, maybe you could also explain how it works in a one product team, because I think my process is a bit different.
Yeah, it's a huge topic. Like every time you design, you need to keep in mind that it's gonna be in different languages. So for desktop is fine, because in the end you have a lot of space out there. But when it comes to mobile, your possibilities are very limited. So let's say what I try to do is design in different languages. Like I'm gonna put German, Spanish, and other languages that I know are gonna have long strings of language, so I make sure that it works even in smaller devices. So that's first part when brainstorming and working. And then normally the developers will ask for translations with an internal tool, and then the translation team will reach out if there's something that it's weird sounding or that cannot be translated. Like you put your trip to Istanbul, but in some languages the prepositions change and break the design. So this is something we need to revisit and iterate on that. And then I will just pull Natasha in and say, hey, we cannot use this because it's not gonna work in Finnish. What can we do? So there's always like this back and forth.
Yeah, and also what we just started, so we didn't have yet much experience, is that we actually tried to involve localization team in the pair writing sessions where we know this was, I mean, everything will be localized, but if we know that already, like me and Marta, we can already sense that would be localization sensitive, we would ping a person from localization team and ask this person to join. I guess the colleague that we work with, she actually has the invite to all of our sessions, so she can come to any of them. Sometimes she asks, does it make sense for me to come today or something? I also have a monthly sync with localization team. They're an incredible team, so they're in Budapest. So that was always remote for us. Yeah, for what we also try to do when developers send the strings, we also encourage localization team to come back with any questions they have in terms of design. And I think right now, Marta, correct me if I'm wrong, but we also put the designs into the together with strings, like we send the design as well.
You can clearly see the difference between iOS team and Android team because Android guys, they're doing it. So they put a screenshot of the design and iOS doesn't. And then you check the iOS app and in Russian, everything breaks. So it really helps for them to have context for the translators because otherwise they just see your trip and it's like, your trip, what is going on? What do I need to translate here? So yeah. That also helps.
And yeah, we have a very good connection with localization, at least UX and localization. And I think in our UX community, everyone knows how important localization is, and we try to involve them as much as possible. And they also are very user-centric as a team, so that helps a lot.
So I think you guys mentioned just now in your answer that you use strings. And Daniela just asked about it. Do you have any experience using it to keep track of copy?
Yeah, so this strings is this Figma, how do we say it correctly? Figma plugin. We were thinking of trying this out. I mean, strings, like the developers that they use strings that they send to localization. This plugin, we are thinking of trying this out. Yeah, especially if it helps us keep track of everything that has been written. But yeah, no, I cannot say we can talk about experience about strings plugin. I don't think we've tried it enough to actually comment anything on it, but definitely on my list to try out for sure. Yeah. I mean, there are others, right? It's not the only plugin in that sense, right?
This actually reminds me of one part of your talk, Marta, where you mentioned you'll see the copy running around around the design if you don't have like a master file where you have all the correct copy in it. I think a lot of us can relate with, or I can relate very much with that. Yeah, so I think maybe one more question and then we'll wrap it up for like the official part. Afterwards, we'll, as always, we have our little speed networking event for those who want to stay. So yeah, one more question here that I thought was very interesting. So when you're in your pair writing sessions, do you just work on the words, or do you also work on, other aspects of the entire, the flow, the visuals, etc.? Do you work on that together, or is it really just the words that you look at?
Marta?
I always ask Natasha for an opinion on everything, since I need to provide context, because she might be coming from a design sprint and she's like, what are you talking about? So I need to show her what I have in mind, so it really makes sense what we're putting in the words. So for sure she's gonna give me feedback like, did you think this is gonna work or not? And then I always ask her advice on user research. How would you test that? Like I give her the idea that I have in mind, and then she will just give me some advice, some tips, and then most probably is when we are gonna sneak in some content research questions. When I'm gonna test the feature itself, that we always put a question that it's gonna really be focusing on the content. So yeah, that's always a little bit the circle that we try to have with all the features.
Yeah, I mean, I have never studied design, and Marta is a UX designer, and this is her governance and her child. So I would never, I would never think I have. Yeah, I would always ask her, like, from a point. Also, I think what I can for sure provide is the user perspective. So every time Marta shows me something new, I have this 5-second test. I'm a user seeing it for the first time, and of course I have questions, but yeah, I don't think we ever have had a really clear distinction. But yeah, I mean, maybe if you're a UX writer who comes from design background, that would be cool if you can weight in on design. I cannot, because I don't have a design experience, but I can weight in on user perspective, and that is, I think, also important. And I think I really would like to comment on what Marta mentioned about incorporating content questions. So because as a UX researcher, I also work on very different projects. Also, like every sprint could be a different project. Today I'm working with the web guys. Tomorrow I'm helping people with some internal tool testing. But yeah, what we really try to do is incorporate a content research question in every user test there is. So every time someone is planning to do some user testing with, let's say, 5 users, I would always ask, could you please ask them, were there any words that were not clear? Did they get anything? And then I would also, if I help them actually do this user testing, I would always in the end ask about something about wording, or something that they may have mentioned, and other stakeholders may not want to follow up on that because they may not know how. And then as a UX researcher and UX writer, I would say, let's come back to that. What do you think of what is written there? I remember you commented on that. And honestly, in every user testing, I find something new about what people think, what is written on our screens. This is the most amazing part about content research. There is always something, really, every time.
I think that's a lovely way to end the whole talk. With every user test, we learn something new, even though we've been working in the field for a long time. So yeah, with that, I think the official part of our talk is, or our meetup is over. Thank you so much, Natasha and Marta. I think you guys have proven that collaboration works, even just with this talk, being in 2 different countries even at the same time and giving a talk together. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
For all of those that are now, logging off, may the 4th be with you. And hope to see you again next time. We're having another meetup in July, as we mentioned, about dark patterns in UX writing, which should be very interesting. The exact date is not yet fixed, but we will let you know over the meetup group.